Hello, and welcome back to my channel. So we are back for another installment of Unpopular Opinions, and again, you guys are going to get two of these videos, probably one that's going to come about 2 weeks after this one, because I get so many comments and I want to acknowledge them and react to the really good ones, and don't want the video to be 2 hours long. And then on the other hand, girly got a life, so I'm gonna be out of town traveling and spending time with friends and taking some time off, and this helps me keep you guys fed and just remain on my content schedule. So love you guys, thank you for bearing with me, and let's go ahead and talk about the tiers. All right, so here we have the tiers. 24K, you guys know that one. Perfect, could not have said it better myself, completely agree. Get Behind Me is like, I mostly agree and I'm gonna defend you, so get behind me, or it's a pure matter of opinion, but you know what, these are all opinions, but you get what I'm saying, I agree. Love That For You is like, I love that for you. I don't really agree, I don't really disagree, so I love that for you. Maybe not for me. Free Space, I just realized that 5 tiers is too many and it won't let me do 4, and I want Beyonce still at the bottom, so bingo, that's a Free Space. And then Beyonce, you guys know that one. That is, girl, what are you thinking? What are you saying? I'm not getting it. I want to get it, but I don't. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the first one. Dua Lipa and The Weeknd are currently each other's male and female counterparts at the exact same level, meaning they lean into a musical aesthetic due to its radio successes, Dula Peep Disco, Abel 80s. I'd like to see both of them experiment, but I don't see that happening with how much radio play they both get. Imagine Dula Peep's rock era, Abel's emo phase. Personally, I find both their current sounds very stale. Okay, so I'm going to address Dua first, and then I'll do The Weeknd second. So I have a theory, and I'm not sure if it's a theory or if it's just like my interpretation or perception, but my theory is that Dua Lipa is not like... Y'all love to drag Dua for overusing the disco sound and all of this, and I've addressed this a little bit before, but I'm going to fully get into it here because this is obviously the perfect situation. Dua Lipa does not have that much disco music when you look at her discography in its entirety. Yeah, she's got a whole album. Yeah, she's got Dance the Night. Maybe you could throw Blow Your Mind in there with it, which is a single that is, I don't know if it's on her debut album, but it was a single before that album came out. I think with disco, Dua actually, that was a time when she kind of found her sound, so to speak, because she was doing a lot of different things before that, different types of sounds. And then she started, she put out, oh my God, Don't Start Now. Wow, that feels like 5 years ago. It was about 3, maybe 4. But she put out Don't Start Now, and that was, I think, to me, the beginning of her actually crystallizing, okay, I'm going to run with the disco sound. So this is before disco is trendy. Everybody and their mama is doing disco. I will give you The Weeknd, and I will also give you Doja Cat, but Doja Cat is not a disco artist. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing say so out there. So what my point is, disco. I was going to say Disco Lipa. Dua Lipa was just a tad ahead of that disco resurgence trend, and I think she by no fault of her own, disco became trendy and everyone hopped on it, and because she was doing it, everyone's like, oh my God, Dua is only doing disco, we're so sick of Dua's disco. Maybe you're sick of disco in general, but I don't think that Dua is overdoing it with the disco. A lot of D's, because from my point of view, what happened was she found a sound, she started putting out music, with that sound, it became trendy, a bunch of people started doing it, and then everyone's like, oh my God, we're sick of it. While it was probably the disco, that's probably an organic decision between her and her team, I do think it will be smart for her to pivot away from it in the future, because the feedback is y'all are dragging Dua for it. But the good news is I believe that she's already said that the disco era is over. At the end of Dance the Night video, the disco ball falls, maybe at the beginning, I don't know. But I also heard from one of my friends that she is working with Tame Impala's Kevin Parker on her next album. So I don't think she's going to be full on disco forever. Well, she's not. Okay, now let's go ahead and address The Weeknd. I used to be a Weeknd stan, used to love his music, every single thing he put out I was gonna listen to. This was a very long time ago. I think it kind of stopped for me around Starboy, where I just really wasn't into his music anymore as much. And I don't know if it's because he got into the more disco sound, because I love Blinding Lights. I really don't think that's the problem. I think sometimes I'm just not as interested in what an artist is doing anymore, and I think right now The Weeknd is that person, one of those people for me, unfortunately. But that being said, at the beginning of his career, or at the beginning when I found him, and this was when he was trending on Tumblr, when he was doing House of Balloons and the trilogy and all of that, I would say he was a little emo, a little in his feelings era. So I don't know if you're saying like that's not emo enough for you, or if it's like that's a little bit before your time. I don't know how old you are. Could have just been like you just weren't checking for The Weeknd like that. That's fine. Like no one was like, oh my god, The Weeknd is so emo. Maybe people were saying that, but a lot of his music was dark. It was melancholy. I think he has a project called My Dear Sweet Melancholy, like a little EP. That's a later work, kind of. But yeah, I think he does have a lot of emo, darker tone music, but I can also acknowledge that a shift was sort of made after he became mainstream. Do I think their music is stale? Well, I just said The Weeknd's music, I don't really check for it that much anymore. I did like the Creepin' cover, whatever. I'm biased. I can't tell you, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I think Dua Lipa's music is stale. Genuinely, I don't, but I also know I'm a huge Dua Lipa fan, so there's some bias there. But like I said, she's definitely looking to something new for this third album. So I'm going to put that and love that for you, because I read this and I was like, I get what you're saying, but I did want to put it out there that I don't think that Dua overuses disco in the way that people feel. But that is going to go and love that for you. All right, Lust for Life is one of Lana's best, and Born to Die is incoherent and only good because of nostalgia's sake. Individual songs are good, but as a project, it lacks flow. This is an interesting one because I think people love Born to Die. Personally, I love Born to Die. Off to the Races. I heard that song for the first time at 14. I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to hear a song that sounds this good or just has so much going on. I love songs that go on twists and turns, where if I'm hearing it for the first time, I'm like, I don't know what direction this is going to go in. And what I really love about Lana's storytelling is like, I meant to say what I love about her songwriting is the storytelling, but you know what? We just went ahead and got ahead of ourselves. It's a story. There's a beginning, a middle, and end. There are characters. There's a conflict. Like, I feel like some of Lana's songs, you could do a plot triangle to them and have stuff to put on the plot triangle. I feel the same way about This Is What Makes Us Girls. Like, to me, that song just sounds like a whole story. I'm looking down at the track list because I'm like, I know a lot of these songs, but I get the songs on Born to Die mixed up with a lot of the songs on Paradise. Carmen is another fave. Of course, Blue Jeans. Like, who doesn't like Blue Jeans? And National Anthem. Okay, so the album is incoherent. I think this album really covers like Lana's concept of relationships at the time, you know, because this album, I think it's 10 notes, 11 years old, Jesus. But yeah, like every single one of these songs is related to a relationship in some way. I'm looking down at the track list just to make sure I'm not like saying that and it's not true. Other than Radio, I can't remember all of the lyrics, but I think like that one is like, not even they can stop me now, like now my life is sweet like cinnamon, da 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 da. Like to me that song is like a more like self-confidence, I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and like now I'm on the radio, how do you like me now sort of thing. So maybe that's one of the only ones. So you are saying that Lust for Life is a better project. Lust for Life did not do it for me at first in its entirety, but going back, I do love that album. But I do believe that my favorite Lana Del Rey song is Get Free, which is on Lust for Life. I love that song. It's freeing, and I know that the song title is Get Free, but it just feels like a catharsis. It just feels like I'm in the end of like a feel-good movie and I'm standing on the cliff, the sun is shining on my face and I'm exhaling and I'm smiling, and like cut to black, end credits, Get Free plays, and you don't see it, you're walking out of the theater, but like inside of the movie, like in universe, I'm living my best life. I love Get Free. And then also, of course, I love Love is one of the songs on the album. I love Lust for Life, the title track. I think my second favorite song on that album is Groupie Love, and that one features A$AP. This is actually a very, very feature heavy album because I think Stevie Nicks is on this album also. Sean Lennon is on the album. There are quite a lot of features on Lust for Life. It's a really cool album. If you had to ask me which album do I think is more coherent, Lust for Life or Born to Die, I think I would pick Lust for Life. To me, it feels like all of those songs could have been written by the same person around the same time period. Like maybe those are all songs that someone could have written between the ages of 25 and 30, let's say. So it's like within that little 5-year bubble, you know, some things change, some things stay the same. But with Born to Die, I think that album, I'm like, okay, some of these songs sound like a 17-year-old could have written them. Not saying it's like teenage writing, but it sounds like some of them are the story of when Lana was a teenager. So that's quite literally what it's about. And then some of them, I'm like, okay, for here it ranges from like 17 to 30. So I believe what I'm trying to say here because, you know, I don't rehearse. I just want to give you guys my unfiltered, unmitigated thoughts on these, to be fair. I think Lust for Life, since the scope is smaller, it's easier for those experiences that are depicted in the album fictional or real to come off as more focused than they do in Born to Die, just because there's a bigger breadth of like life experience and life changes that are covered in the album. Also some real, also some fictional. To me personally, how coherent I think an album is, that doesn't always have to deal with how much I like the album. I'm gonna put this in Love That For You. I don't think I've ever heard someone say Born to Die is a bad album, so to me this genuinely was an unpopular opinion, so thank you for sharing that. And yeah, stream Get Free. You can't be an artist but build your career by being a critic. So many TikTokers, podcasters, and YouTubers build their career off reviews and reactions. They get shocked when they put their own art out, and viewers can rightfully dislike if it's not good. The critic can get the same feedback they gave the established artists who focus on taking the risk. Either stick to being a critic or shut up and make your art. So when I was in college, because for one of my degrees, we did a lot of criticisms, and criticism is something that you learn. I think a lot of people don't realize that having an opinion and giving a criticism, two different things, by the way. And then like a criticism that like I might just be giving to my friend about something is going to be different than me criticizing an art form. But that word gets thrown around incorrectly a lot of times. You can be an artist, you can be a critic, you can be both. You can't be both at the same time. Physically, it's possible, but it's going to be limiting to your art. Probably not to your criticism, because the criticisms will be in your head because you've already learned them. You're just going to hold back when it comes to criticizing other people because your art is out there, so you don't want to be criticized with that same energy as this person is saying. Then on the inverse, if you are a critic who is simultaneously trying to make art, it does sort of limit you and give you a mental block, because a lot of the conventions and standards by which you have learned to criticize, you're going to apply that to your own art while making it, or even if you don't, because as they say, and I do think it's true, you got to know the rules to break the rules. You're going to be like, okay, well, I know that that's something I would criticize in someone else, and because I'm aware of that, I know if I put this out there like this, someone's going to criticize me for that, so I'm just not going to do it because I don't want that criticism. And I know that the relationship between artist and critic, it's very tumultuous. Some people say symbiotic, some people say parasitic, but I don't really fault artists for not caring about what critics have to say. Charli XCX is one that comes to mind, because like a critic kind of trashed one of her albums and then years later was like, oh, actually it's good. And she was like, this is why criticism is invalid, because sometimes people criticize based on what's popular. Like sometimes my measure of a song might be in comparison to other contemporary songs. So then my comparison might change 5 years from now when, you know, the thing that I was criticizing previously now has contemporaries that I understand and can contextualize it better with. But I think what Charli was saying, if it's good to you when you first hear it, then it's, you know, then it's good, because there's no good, there's no bad, because it's art, it's subjective. Your opinion shouldn't be night and day. The only way typically that people's opinions on something are night and day, and usually it's true for myself, my own criticisms, is when I realized I did not give something a fair enough chance the first time. Like opinions can and do change over time, but they typically don't drastically change if you did your due diligence in like dissecting something and looking at it and breaking it apart really, really well the first time. But yeah, I think my point was like artists, I don't ever think it's crazy that artists don't listen to critics in general. It's like you should be able to take criticism, but I don't know if I would listen to someone just writing an article ripping my song to shreds. And like even within that criticism, there are some things that maybe you can take that are technical. Like if they're like, okay, this needs to be mastered this way, this sounds terrible, I can't hear, versus something that is more subjective where I'm like, I don't like this word choice here. But yeah, me personally, artist and critic, doing both at the same time, from what I've heard, it doesn't work. I wouldn't try it, because I'm thinking right now if I had to start making music, and as much as I talk about music and stuff, and I was like releasing music for you guys and then talking about music, I will be creating things that I think you guys want to hear or what you wouldn't criticize. Or if I was like, oh, I really hated the bass in that one song, I would have to make sure that I produce something that doesn't sound similar to the thing that I said I hated. So I am going to put this and get behind me, but I would be interested to hear your thoughts, because I do know some people who watch my channel like react to music or whatever, and some of you guys make music or some of you guys might be thinking about it and we don't know. So I would be interested to hear thoughts on this. All right, a new crop of producers and songwriters are needed, mostly from Gen Z, and then in brackets, the Max Martins, Esther Deans, Stargates, Taylor Parks. The current ones can only do so much in the long run, and radio is indicating so. This is an interesting one. Not because I don't think we're at a loss for songwriters, but because I'm like, ooh, who are the current songwriters who I know by name, especially working on a lot of these videos. So some people who come up quite a lot are Julia Michaels, Victoria Monet, of course, John Bellion. Those are just people that are coming off the top of my mind, but there are a bunch more. Maybe it's just a time thing where a lot of these songwriters are out and they're working and, you know, they're talented and they're creating hits. But they just, oh, also BB Rexa, obviously. But we just haven't gotten to the point yet where they've made so many chart hits. And with the way the music industry is looking now, who knows if we'll get to that point where they become a household name. Because one, Max Martin is super talented, but Max Martin is also a household name because he's been making chart-topping hits since before I was born. So we all know Max Martin. And I think the same can be said with producers, but I do think typically people are a lot more familiar with producers than they are with songwriters. And I think maybe the exception to that is when the songwriter is someone like a Victoria Monet, like a BB Rexa, even like a Julia Michaels, where they are a singer and a songwriter. So they're putting out their own music for you to consume also. What is interesting about this to me is something that I've kind of been thinking about for a little bit, because like someone like a Max Martin or an Esther Dean, and this is not a knock on them or any songwriter or any producer, because it just happens in every industry where, you know, you get a sort of formula or a way of making music that is probably very heavily influenced by the time period in which you learn to make music. So basically, the structure of a pop song when Max Martin was making hits for like Britney Spears and people of that nature, even moving into the 2010s when he's working with people like Ariana Grande, the song structure keeps changing. No matter how talented of a songwriter you are, producer you are, you have to adapt in a sense to the ways that music changes. You don't have to, but most try to because they want their music to sound fresh and current. And sometimes that is a little bit more difficult than someone who like, okay, I was born in 2002 and I'm an adult now, and this is when I just started learning producing music. Like, so your production skills is probably gonna sound like that of someone who came from the 2020s. So, you know, in 2040, they might be like, oh, little so-and-so, like their music sounds like 2020s. And, you know, you'll make some tweaks along the way to make it more current and adaptable, but it's the same thing with like music and makeup, if you wear makeup, and fashion. A lot of the times, you know, if you actually, once you become older, and I'm not that old, but now I'm old enough to remember like being a teenager is my point, you'll kind of realize that a lot of your music taste, your fashion taste, your makeup and stuff, it doesn't necessarily change. Like you might tweak it a little bit for the times, but a lot of those things that you really love in your teenage years and your early 20s, those are going to be things that you love and lean into, or stylistic choices that influence everything you do for the rest of your life. And I do think that's also the case with singers and producers, or songwriters and producers, even when they do learn to adapt. So a good bit of what I just said, I do think it was necessary, but it was a little bit more of explaining what the person was saying and giving some validity to their statement rather than, you know, reacting to their opinion. Well, that's technically a reaction. Yeah, producers, songwriters, I don't think people are inherently ever less talented than the generation before them, but I do think something that a lot of up-and-coming songwriters and producers are suffering from, society in general is suffering from it, and a lot of people have brought it up in the comments, is that a lot of us don't get introductions to music that aren't as self-taught anymore. Like a lot of people aren't taking the music lessons at school for free or, you know, reduced price because instruments are expensive. A lot of us aren't, you know, doing choir as an extracurricular for the school or for the church. And a lot of those ways where you pick up music and musical knowledge and just musical abilities and acumen outside of what you can do on your computer or what's popping on SoundCloud. Someone was like, oh my God, why aren't there garage bands anymore? Like, why aren't there any 2000s-esque like bands who just got started in their garage? Why don't those exist anymore? And I saw someone in the comments, I believe I saw this on TikTok, they were saying because kids don't learn how to play instruments anymore. I'm generalizing, some kids do, because the instrument is expensive, the lessons are expensive, they also take time. And you know, when we're in this silent depression, a lot of parents don't have the time or the funds to dedicate that to an extracurricular that involves an instrument or anything else. And like I said, if that's not the case for you, amazing. But it is the case for some people. And I say all that to say, I do think that that is one reason that there is this so-called disparity between the producers and songwriters of old days compared to now. Because even though you can make so much using the internet, using computers and, you know, like drum machines and things like that, sometimes it just doesn't beat learning how to play an instrument. Or, you know, I know this guy who can play a guitar better than I can find a guitar sound on the internet or make it on my computer, so I'm gonna have him work with me or in my band. Because even thinking about it now, I know several people who make and produce music. I don't know a single one who uses live instruments in any way, shape, or form. And I mean like a live instrument where they're playing it and recording it, or someone they know is actually playing it in the room with them and recording it. I don't know anyone like that. And I feel like if it were 20 years ago, I think I would know quite a bit more. And then also to add on to the, you know, everything, you have so much at your fingertips when it comes to music making on the internet, but a lot of what you don't have are those moments where you're collaborating with someone sitting next to you that, you know, they might give you a lyric, they might give you a beat that really does just make the song come together. Because from what I understand, a lot of this production that's done on computers and stuff, a lot of it is done in solitude. Not all of it, but quite a lot of it. And then also a lot of people just don't have the mentorship that a lot of these artists would have gotten years ago. But yeah, then on top of this, I'll just end with what I started with and say, I don't think we'll have so many household name songwriters and producers as we used to, because I don't think we'll have as many household name artists in general, because, you know, death of the monoculture and all of that. Yeah, people won't stop producing, people won't stop songwriting, but I do understand why there are disparities between the current people. And then I also understand why sometimes it can seem like the music by these older songwriters and producers can seem dated. So I'm gonna put this in Get Behind Me. And it is definitely just a symptom of a lot of issues that are going on, not only in the music industry, but like I commented on, in the world at this point. I hate when an artist says that this is their most authentic album about every album they make. If you write your own songs, every new album will of course be personal because it's the most recent version of yourself that wrote it about your most recent experiences, but that doesn't take away from the fact that your previous records were also authentic to who you were back then. I hate when they discredit their past work because it's such a disservice to the fans that love them. I get that if they didn't have any input in them, but that's a different case. Oh my God, this actually does annoy me so much too. Like when they're like, this is the most real I've gotten yet. This is my first time being honest. So I'm like, is everything you said before this a lie? Was everything you said before this fake? And like you said, sometimes it was because they had no creative control or input. But if you're writing your own music, it should be. Not to rephrase what you're saying, but I do understand that a lot of the times artists do and say that because they feel like it adds on another layer of validity to their work, because people be like, oh, well, this is just fake. It doesn't sound like them. It's inauthentic. But on the other hand, when an artist is like, this is the most authentic I've ever been, I'm being authentic, I'm like, I don't know you, so how do I know that? Like, how do I know if you're being real with me now, then, or ever? I don't know you, so that doesn't really help. I'm not looking to relate to any artist. I'm not, like, they don't have to be real with me. Like, to me, that just doesn't matter because I don't know you. Like, maybe pre-fame era, we had some things in common, maybe, but like now that you're a multi-millionaire, we're not living the same life. Maybe we're having some experiences that are similar. But like, so are my friends, and I actually know them, and we can talk about that stuff. I don't need to relate to a stranger. I just don't. And that being said, still it is the case that several artists will put out a song where I'm like, damn, that just really hits on how I'm feeling right now. I really can relate to that. But to me, that's just more of a coincidence rather than something I'm seeking out for that artist or something I want from that artist. Because a lot of the times, honestly, when I'm listening to music, I'm trying to get into a different headspace, a different reality, or just an escape. Even if something bad is not going on, I'm turning on the music to entertain myself and to get into something different. So I'm like, I don't need to hear about your whole biography in the music, no matter how poetic you make it. Sometimes the song can just be fun. Sometimes the song can just be silly. Music can be made just for music's sake. Like, just because an artist is a singer-songwriter, I don't want everything they write. It doesn't have to be about them. It can just be made up and silly, goofy, cute girl fun. And I like a lot of music for that reason. I'm going to put that in 24K. I'm going to put that in 24K. Having her master sold to Scooter Braun was actually the best thing to happen in Taylor's career. The Taking My Art Back narrative got people interested in the re-recordings, and those are giving her a huge boost in success right now. Re-releasing albums is an easy way to have a constant stream of content coming out for people to get invested in, sparks interest in old fans, a lot of which get invested too, and massively boosts her numbers by essentially giving all her airs a new life and a second version of every song for her fans to stream. I'm not really a fan, but she definitely made the best out of the situation. Sorry if this is hard to read. English is not my first language. I understood this 100%. You're good. So while I obviously don't think this was the best thing that ever happened in Taylor Swift, and I get what you mean. I know that you're not really saying that either. I do believe that she absolutely made the best out of this decision, you know, music-wise, business-wise. A lot of people are like, oh, this revived her career. I don't know why, but I think even without the re-recordings, Taylor Swift would still be very, very famous right now. And outside of the music, outside of the singer-songwriter, first and foremost, Taylor Swift is a businesswoman, and she is a good businesswoman. I think if Taylor Swift wants to get out of music one day, I don't think she does, teach a business class, teach a master class, girl, I'll buy it. But I do think from the outside looking in, one of the genius things that Taylor Swift has done in her career, for better, for worse, she has made her career and her public life, I'm not going to say her real life because we don't know anything about her real life. Really, she has made her public life and her career very, very interactive. You know, master storyteller within the songs, but Taylor Swift has also been a master storyteller in regards to her career. Every time something happens, and I know that this happens with other celebrities, but like the magnitude and the precision with which Taylor Swift does it needs to be studied because it's mastermind. It's mastermind. But anytime something happens in Taylor's life, like there's this narrative, I hate to say it, but sort of narrative where there's a villain that has to be vanquished or defeated, and then like Taylor includes the Swifties and her fans and is like, help me vanquish this villain. And like sometimes the villain is Kanye, sometimes the villain is Scooter, sometimes the villain is Spotify. And I'm not like saying, okay, well, she doesn't have a right to be mad about this, she does have a right to be mad about this. But what I am saying that Taylor does differently than a lot of celebrities is like, I'm fighting against this thing, here's how you can help me fight this fight. And it's not just by sending a bunch of tweets, it's usually by like, hey, you know, stream these new albums, do this, listen to the music over here, you can have an action this way, you can be interactive, you can take part in my career and my life in this way. And I do think that's part of the reason why a lot of Taylor Swift fans really love her, outside of just loving her music, obviously, because I'm sure that's what attracted people first. But the investment in Taylor Swift's life that a lot of her fans have, I think it's to a higher degree than a lot of other artists. And you know, at the end of the day, just because you bake cookies at Taylor Swift's house or got to listen to some songs before they were released, also adding on to that whole aspect of Taylor making her career interactive, I can't believe I forgot to say this. I guess I was just caught up ranting and raving. But another aspect of this that I think is like completely harmless, or more on the there's no antagonist or there's no like bad person in this situation, are just the sheer amount of Easter eggs that she puts in her music videos, in her posts and things like that. Where so now every time Taylor posts something, whether it's an Instagram picture, whether it's a video, something like that, her fans, the Swifties, are going to get on it because they think there could possibly be an Easter egg. And sometimes it looks like they really actually do find things because Taylor does plant things. And so I'm saying all of this to say that I don't think that the Scooter Braun thing, I think the way that Taylor handled it was smart, but I do think that that was like Taylor's MO. Like when she was like, well, I have a plan, I'm gonna re-record my albums and devalue the old ones. I wasn't even like, yes, genius. I was like, this is typical Taylor, because if something happens, she's gonna find a way to circumvent it and fix it, and also find a way to give her fans an alternative way to support her. And like I said, I do think that's a genius business strategy. It's a business strategy at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm gonna put this in Get Behind Me. I'm going to put this in Get Behind Me because I get what you're saying. I do. Also, Miley Cyrus is the best singles artist of all time. Prisoner, River, Jaded Flowers, Used to Be Young, Angels Like You, Midnight Sky, Malibu, Wrecking Ball, We Can't Stop, Port in the USA, Seven Things, See You Again, etc. are all amazing. And it's said that outside of Flowers, she doesn't really get the flowers, LOL, she always deserved. Used to Be Young is one of my favorite ballads of all time, and it deserves so much more success than it got. I think that I've finally come to the realization that Miley Cyrus, to me, is a singles artist rather than an albums artist, and I think that's what this person is saying. Whether someone's a singles artist or an albums artist it's subjective, and it's a personal thing. Because to me, someone's a singles artist if most people only listen to their singles, if I personally only listen to their singles, or if I feel like they're only known for their singles or mostly known for their singles. But I know that there are probably some people listening right now who are like, no, Miley is an albums artist. Every single one of her albums bangs. So it is very subjective. But I do agree, because when I was like, yeah, Miley should be at the Super Bowl, to one of my friends. And then we were like, what song should she do? And it was just like basically a medley of all of these singles, basically. And it's not a bad thing, because Miley's been giving us singles for over a decade. But then when I look back at the albums, and I'm actually like in a Miley mindset right now because I'm working on the Bangers video. To me, Bangers and Plastic Hearts are the only Miley albums that I really check for. But then looking at her discography, I listen to singles from every single one of her albums. So I get what you're saying. I'm gonna put this in Get Behind Me. Also, I'm putting this in Get Behind Me and not 24K. Let me explain that, because I don't know if I think she's the best singles artist of all time. I would have to think about that more. I would say probably Rihanna, honestly. I think I consider Rihanna more of a singles artist than an albums artist. I don't know if I listen to any of her albums, like just start playing the album on shuffle, other than Anti maybe, and Good Girl Gone Bad. And then Used to Be Young is just not my favorite ballad of all time. So I'm gonna put this in Get Behind Me, because I do agree with like the majority of your opinion. Writing smut fanfiction should be considered sexual harassment. What fanfiction authors will write about the celebrity is creepy and gross, particularly how explicit the detail is at times. I can imagine it is also distressing and disturbing for the celebrity to read if they ever saw it on the internet. It is so crazy that you say this because just like a couple weeks ago, my cousin and I were having a very long conversation about how this should be illegal. It probably never will be because freedom of speech, and if you don't name the person just like a blind item or anything else, they can't prove that it's about them even if you leave enough like Easter eggs or whatever. Sometimes they know it's about them, but you know, it got changed. Like the example that I'm sure is coming to most of our minds is After, which I never read because it's a Harry Styles fan fiction. I think the One Direction band members are in. I know some of y'all watching have read After and probably can tell me the whole plot front and back, so correct me if I mess anything up. I think there are other band members in the fan fiction, but all you need to know is that it is a Harry Styles fan fiction where he goes to college and falls in love with this other teenager who's like, oh, tie my hair into a messy bun, my crystal blue orbs, like YN, like very Mary Sue stock character. From what I understand, I've never read the books or the fanfics. Well, I guess they're books now. And from what I believe, when the thing was on One Off After and Before Ever After, Happy Ever After, Before After, when all of those were on Wattpad, I believe that the characters' names were like Harry Styles or just Harry, like they were the band members' names. But then when the books got published and the films got made, the characters' names were changed. We all know it's about Harry, even though it's not about Harry. And I'm going to assume, based on how old After is, I think it's at least 10 years old. Harry was probably a minor at the time, or a very, very early adult. And when I say early adult, like maybe like 19, 20, 21. It is weird. It is very weird to me to write real people in sexual situations or in nefarious situations. I am fanfiction down. I've probably read more fanfiction than a lot of people on planet Earth. I don't read fanfics about real people. I'm sorry. Like those aren't characters. Those are people. And I'm not saying every fanfic about a real person is as bad as the other, because I know a lot of people who write fanfictions about like boy bands, girl bands, K-pop, things like that. Or it's like an AU where like BTS and like One Direction are on a world tour together and it's just for fun. Not every fanfiction that's written about a real person is done with bad intentions or done to paint them in a weird light or just a situation that the person probably would not want themselves depicted in. But doing this is very, very weird. Like, make up your own characters. And I get that, you know, if everything is OCs and people probably aren't going to read it, not every fantasy you have about a celebrity needs to make it out of your brain and onto the page. And like I said, I wish in a perfect world people could sue over this, but I understand why they can't. And it is distressing and disturbing to the celebrity, I'm sure. Like, personally, as someone who's like into fan fiction, I've always found this like not to be my jam. I don't like it. I think it's inappropriate and I feel like it should be illegal. So this is gonna go into 24K for me. Vocals are more important than choreo during a live performance. I'd much rather you sit still and sing well than skip a bunch of lyrics to do a little jig. If you have great voice control and you're in good shape, then never mind. But if not, then just relax and sing. I feel like there's two sides to this, because I think it depends on the nature of the performance. Because if you're Adele and you're not known for your choreography and you're gonna stand there and sing, then you better be singing down, honey. But like if you're like a K-pop group or something where I'm like, you're doing choreography, and let's be very honest, I'm not expecting you to sing, then I'm just not worried about the live vocals. I still need to be stimulated in some way, because if you're sitting there and singing, then I'm very auditorily, I hope that's the word, auditorily stimulated. If the vocals, you know, if you're just lip syncing and you're doing an intricate like choreography routine, then my brain does kind of check out because I'm just hearing the studio version of the song I've already heard. But visually I'm stimulated because I'm watching the choreography. I'm fine with us standing there and singing and you sound amazing. I'm fine with the mic is off and you're dancing and you sound amazing. But one thing I'm not fine with is like when an artist is walking around on the stage, so there's no like actual choreography. So really they just need to perform, whether it's a rap, whether it's a song, but the breath control is not there and they're huffing and puffing and doing every third word. Because then I'm like, stop walking around, because half the time they're not even running. So I'm like, why are you out of breath? Breath control, artist development. That's why they're out of breath. But my point is, I'm like, you don't have a reason to be holding the mic out to me every third word. Do your job, you know? But yeah, so I'm gonna put this in Love That for you because I agree with what you're saying, and I think it's just more of a case-by-case basis. Depends on the nature of the performance. Lyrics don't really matter if the production is really good. If the production is on a pretty high level, even the song with really mediocre lyrics can be really good. Often I'm more interested in the production than the lyrics unless something really, really clever is being done. I feel the same way a lot of the times. Like, the lyrics can't be complete ass, but sometimes if the production is amazing, I can sacrifice having good lyrics. And that goes back to what I just said, where I'm like, I gotta be stimulated by something. And like listening to a song, it's both auditory. Auditory is what I was looking for. No, I was using an adverb since last time, but I'm doing too much. So if the lyrics aren't hitting and the production is, then overall I'm having a net positive experience with the song. But if the lyrics are bad and the production's bad, I'm not enjoying it. And you know, best case scenario is the lyrics and production are both great. I'm like debating between putting that in Get Behind Me and Love That For You, because I'm like, I don't want to say the lyrics don't matter, but I can confidently say that if the lyrics aren't completely what I would want them to be, I can still enjoy the song if the production is doing what I want it to do. Get Behind Me or Love That For You. Get Behind Me or Love That For You. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to put it in Get Behind Me. I'm going to be nice today. You don't have to even read this because it's so long and probably stupid. I want you to know, by the way, I did read the whole thing, but for brevity's sake, I'm just going to include part of the paragraph. But I read the whole thing. I just wanted to put this out there because I've been thinking about it a lot recently, LMAO. I honestly don't know if it's unpopular, but I enjoy most music. It's very rare for me to hear a song that I dislike. I like music from all decades. If you show me an artist, I will usually find multiple songs I love from them. I like songs that have 1,000 streams and songs that have 1 billion streams. I feel the exact same way. And I know sometimes when I put out videos, I'm like, I know they're like, this girl is being way too generous. She is lying. She's making stuff up. But to be very honest, it is rare for me to hear a song where I can't point out at least one decent thing about it. It's just rare for me. There are songs, like I'm not gonna lie, there are songs that I don't like, don't do it for me at all. For the most part, a song to me is either passable, I like it, or I really love it. And those are 3 different things. So I'm not saying every single song that I hear, I'm like, this changed my life, it needs a Grammy, but most songs, I'm just like, okay, this is cool, I can get into it, you know? And that's across genres, that's across decades, like this person said. And it's because, first and foremost, I'm a music lover. I can't be a music lover if I have this, like, elitist attitude in regards to a lot of the music I listen to. And I'm not saying you can't be a music lover and not like certain genres or certain songs, because there are certain genres that I'm not a fan of. But what I am saying is music is art. Music is meant to be consumed. Music is meant to be enjoyed first and foremost. It's meant for you to enjoy. It's meant to make you happy. I understand that there are sad songs out there and songs about things that aren't going to make you happy, but at the end of the day, it's art that is just meant to add to your life and help you get through whatever you're getting through, whether that's like a breakup, a death of a loved one, or just, you know, your little daily shop at Walmart. Music is just meant to be enjoyed. And as much as I love it, as much as it is something that I love to talk about, obviously, and always have, it is never that deep. Music should not feel like a chore. Music should not feel like a job. Music should not feel like a competition. Obviously, there are award shows and stuff like that, but some of you guys are like soldiers for this music, and it's not that serious. And I'm not saying, oh my god, if you don't like something, you need to keep it to yourself and shut up. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that there's just, I don't know, and it's not just about music. It's in related to any art form, any fandom, any sport, because I know a lot of the words I'm saying, you could probably translate this to something outside of music, but sometimes people just take it too seriously. Like, we're streaming songs, y'all. We're not saving lives. I just enjoy it. And it's like, if music ever becomes a thing where you're like, I'm not enjoying this anymore, it feels too deep, I do urge you to take a step back, because music should be fun. It should be adding things to your life. It should not be draining you. It should not be taking things out of your life. And I also just love how music can get, like, different songs can get me into different moods, different vibes, different feelings. It can make me want to Google something. It can make me want to learn about this. I can hear a new sound and I want to know what that instrument is. Maybe a song in a shuffle will come up and I've never heard of this person. So I Google them and then I'm like, how come I've never heard of this musician from Turkey? And then I find out something more about that country or that person. Like, to me, music should always be a window into learning more about the music, learning more about the artist or about yourself. It should be a window into expanding, not into becoming closed-minded or contracting or wanting to learn less, or this sort of tribalism that a lot of us are seeing around music now. And I don't want to act like it's a new thing. I just think that it's more prevalent because it's easier for a lot of us to see it in front of our screens and in front of our faces every day. But I completely agree with you. Music should be fun, and I do like most music. I am listening to music almost all the time, and I've been that way my whole life because my parents are like that, like my family is like that. Like, we are music lovers. This is a channel for music lovers. You know? And like, I don't want to go off on a whole rant, but yeah, I feel you, I get you, I love music, and it's not really a lacking taste thing, you like everything thing, because I'm like, I might like a lot of stuff. I didn't say I love everything. But anyways, yeah, music is just meant to be fun. So have fun. I'm gonna put this in 24K, and thank you for giving this reminder. Thank you for sending in that long comment, because I read it and I loved it. And you guys never have to apologize for leaving a long comment or something, because a lot of y'all do, and I'm like, y'all listen to me talk for like 30-40 minutes, so like whatever, write what you want to write. But 24K. So these are the final tiers, these are the final vibes. No Beyonce this time around, but hey, that's not a bad thing. All right, that is the end of this unpopular opinions video. Make sure you let me know your thoughts on the unpopular opinions down below. I do want to reiterate, because I've never said this in a video, but I've noticed a lot of you guys do it. If you leave unpopular opinions in the comment section, this is not where I'm going to come back to look for unpopular opinions. So if you put something great in the comment section, it's not going to be included in a video, because this is not where I look for the unpopular opinions. So make sure you put them in the community post when I'm asking. Like I said, I try to do it like every other month, because doing it every month I feel like it's too much, but I want to, do it frequently enough, because opinions change, things come up, and things of that nature. So yeah, like I said, let me know your thoughts, let me know your feelings down below so we can chat, and you will see another one of these come up soon, because it's going to get broken into 2 videos. But yeah, as always, thank you guys, and you know what, I'm gonna let the outro do the outro. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can stick around for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter if you'd like to keep up with me there. And if you'd like to become a channel member, the link is in the description of the video. I will see you so very soon. Love you so very much. Bye-bye.